And I got to tell you, this guy is pretty amazing. He is a great example of what it is to be a Christian um, because I get to work with him, and he shows a level of caring and grace for people that I could learn from. And I will tell you that there is just this spirit of calm and peace that he shows to individuals, even in very tough situations when they even don't deserve it. And so I am very grateful to be able to work with someone like this. And our speaker today is Jonathan Bradley.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez. I'm abusing him. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Who said no? Figured it was Dustman. Figured. All right. So, first of all right, actually, I'm going to sit. If you guys don't mind, my knees haven't, it's not doing good this week. They say to play sports when you're young and be active, and they forget to tell you about the consequences of that. So, Tony mentioned the song. And first of all, I just have to say thank you to all of you because I fully realized that that was not exactly the normal worship song. And you guys embraced it. I heard quite a few voices singing along, and I just have to say thank you for that because, there is no right way to worship God. The right way to worship God is just to look up at Him. And so I just appreciate that you guys were willing to embrace that even though it's not the normal. So the reason I chose that song is because I have struggled my entire life with my identity. Who was I? And when you're younger, that tends to be a normal thing, but as you get older, the hope is that you figured it out. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I still haven't figured it out. So, the one thing that I did know, though, even though I didn't know who I was, I knew I didn't like who I was. Whoever that person was, whatever it entailed, I didn't like it. When I was in my childhood, I was a pretty quiet, well-behaved kid, got good grades, did all the things that I was supposed to do. Except for there was one time when I was, I believe, 4 years old. I snuck out of the house because my brothers, they all were going to school every day. And, I wanted to go. So I waited for my mom to get in the shower, and it was just me and her. And so she got in the shower. I went and got a chair. I undid the deadbolt, and I headed off to school. And it was actually fabulous because I got there, and the principal gave me a big donut, and it was a good day. So I chalked it up as not too bad. Um, the problem with my childhood is I had quite a bit of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of my mother. Um, and my parents had divorced, and my father did what he felt was the right thing because he felt that's what we wanted. So he did not fight for custody of us because we told him, me and my sister, that we wanted to be with my mother. The truth of the matter was that wasn't the case. However, my mother, in one of her manipulations, had told us that, well, if you go live with your dad, I will kill myself. Obviously, that was not something me or my sister wanted, so we chose just to, as hard as it was, to sit there and tell my dad that, well, we don't want to be with you, but we didn't want to see our mother dead. And he made a hard decision, and that decision was he wanted to honor what we wanted, and he did not know about said threats until way later in life once I became an adult. And this went on for years and years and years. Um, and one of the things that was a go-to move that affects me to this day is anytime she would get upset, she would tell me and my sister. And by the way, I say me and my sister because I had four older brothers, but they were all so older that by the time this was all going on with the divorce and everything, they were like moved out of the house because they were on their own. So it was just me and my sister, and every time she would get upset, she would grab either a butcher knife or she would grab a bottle of pills, and she would take them to her bedroom and she'd say, "I'm going to go kill myself, and it's because of you guys." And there were nights where me and my sister went to sleep, not having a clue whether our mother was in the bedroom alive or dead. I was the older, so I would try and sneak outside. I would try and, look through the window to make sure she wasn't dead. But the truth be told, I didn't know what to do either. I was young and I had no idea how to handle that situation. To this day, I know in my head that there are times that people need to be pushed. That is one of the hardest challenges for me, is to push somebody. Even when I know that that's what is needed and that they need to be pushed, I have such a hard time because I'm petrified of pushing somebody to the point of them taking their own life. And as I said, that's something that I still to this day struggle with. Very, very difficult. All right, so we're going to go a little less deep now. All right, so we're going to go to high school now. High school, I kind of came out of my shell a little bit. Not the first year or two, but I would say my sophomore and junior year, I hit a weird thing where I was like, you know what? I didn't know who I was before, but the quiet thing, it's not working for me. So now I'm going to move to a different realm. And I kind of became, I'm going to say almost the cocky one. I didn't care. It was like, I'd go talk to anybody, I'd say anything. And Cheryl was a good example of that. First time I met Cheryl was at our job. We worked at a Publix. I was a bagger and she was a cashier, and I just walked up to her and I was like, "You're going to go out with me." She looked at me and laughed, and there was an old man who she was taking care of at the time, and he looked at her and he goes, "He looks like a nice guy. You should go out with him." So, little did he know, the plan worked. Let's see, what else with Cheryl? So, the year before I met Cheryl, ironically, I had seen her in the halls. I did not know her yet. And I told my friend, again, with my cocky arrogance, "Yeah, you see that girl? I'm going to go out with her." "Yeah, whatever. You're an idiot." "Yeah, I know, but I'm going to go out with her." Well, it didn't even dawn on me, and I didn't even remember that until a few years later once we started dating. And my friend says, "You realize that is her, right?" And I was like, "What? I forgot about that. You're right." So that was also rather interesting. So everything was going great. I had definitely found a piece of me because she completed a big part of who I wanted to be. She was my absolute best friend. She was the one I could tell anything to, the one that I could lean on, and she could lean on me. However, we dated for the next 2 years, and then came graduation, and graduation came, and my plans were to come up here and go to college up here. Her plans were to stay in Florida and go to school down there because she had a scholarship that was good for Florida schools. So made the decision that we're going to try and make it work long distance. And we had absolutely zero support. Let me tell you, we got so tired of hearing people say, you're never going to make it. Long distance, you can't do long distance as it is, let alone long distance when you're just getting out of high school. It's just not going to happen. They go, okay, well, we sure wanted it to happen, but it was very difficult because, you're leaving a piece of you. And so I remember the trip that we were making up to Wisconsin, and I just hit a moment where I just missed her so much, and I realized it hadn't even been that long yet. But I started crying, and I was praying to God, and I just said, I don't know how to deal with this. This is my everything. You brought her to me, and now I have to live without her. And so all of a sudden, in a strange coincidence, I look up, and on the overpass, there's a graffiti word, and it just says, trust. And then all of a sudden, a couple miles later, there's another one that says in, and then finally, Jesus. And let me tell you, that really sealed the deal right there. I mean, talk about your quick responses, and how some people can chalk things like that up to coincidence. Just kind of baffles me to this day. So it was a hard time, but we made it through it. 2 years later, Cheryl calls me up. She's like, I'm done with school. I'm coming up. All right, fabulous. Now, one of the things that me and Cheryl both knew from very early on is we wanted a family. And the biggest part of that was we wanted to have a family and be able to create a family that did not have the brokenness that we grew up with. So in 99, Miss Rachel was born. Rachel was very difficult. She didn't want to come out, first of all. However, they ended up inducing her. And all of a sudden, I see an alarmness in the doctor and the nurses and the way they're talking. And Rachel got stuck coming out. And the umbilical cord was around her neck. So, even though I was not in a point where I was living out my faith, Jesus, I need you. I need you to fix this. And kind of a funny story with that was the doctor eventually turned to the nurse and says, get the operating team ready now. She came back a minute later, says, I got a hold of them. They're at Denny's, and they want to know if they can finish their food. He did not have a good reaction, and there were some words said. So needless to say, they did not finish their food, and they came in, and Rachel was born, and life was great, and another answered prayer from God. So then in 2009, another big milestone of my life was my grandma passed away. Now, this would be my grandmother on my mom's side, and she meant the world to me. And the reason she meant the world to me is because she was well aware of how my mom was. And so she would, anytime she was with us, if she could sense my mom was about to be triggered, let's say, she would go and provoke a fight with her, so that she would fight with her and take everything out on her rather than us kids. Well, a lifetime of that, and you don't forget that. And so because of that, she meant the world to me. And that was another time where I looked up and she was on hospice from cancer. And the thing was, I didn't want her to be alone. And of course, we all know now sitting here that, she wasn't alone. But I just said to God, I don't know why, but I need to be there for her when she passes. I don't want her to be alone when she passes. At the time, I was a smoker, and, every day was different as far as, okay, do I go to work today? Do I not go to work today? Well, this particular day, I decided to stay with her. I was just about to go out for a cigarette, and all of a sudden I was like, nah, I need to go check on Grandma first. And as I walked in, she began to take her last breath. There's no reason God needed to give me that. That was a gift that meant the world to me. And He gave it to me, even though it was irrational, because as I said, we all know she wasn't alone. But He knew that's something I wanted, and He gave that to me. He gave that gift to me. Now we're going to skip forward a few years. Both girls are, I think, close to teenagers. Yeah, teenagers. 2015, so I'm not good at math on the spot. So we went for a family bike ride, and all of a sudden Rachel says, guys, I need to stop. And we're like, okay, no problem. So she stopped, and all of a sudden her eyes just rolled back into her head, and she went down. Luckily, Cheryl was, by miracle, able to catch her before she actually hit the ground. So Katie, when this happened, I look over at Katie, and I've never seen so much in a person's eyes before. She was petrified. She was devastated because part of her world was in jeopardy. I didn't know what to do. We called 911, got the paramedics there. I started calling everybody I knew. Please pray, please pray, please pray. I didn't even get the worst part of it because I was not allowed to be in the ambulance at the time. So that was given to Cheryl. And they told her, and I didn't find this out till later, that we have to give her a shot to stop her heart so that it can start beating at a regular rhythm again. Now, from the science viewpoint, that might make perfect sense, but anytime they talk about stopping your child's heart, that doesn't give you the warm fuzzies. So, we get to the hospital. Doctors do every test under the sun, and they said, well, we really don't have any idea. We can give you a lot of what-ifs and a lot of possibilities, but none of them are really concrete. There's nothing that's pointing to anything specific. But she seems completely fine. Another gift. 2011, up to this point in our life, I would say that me and Cheryl both had faith, but we weren't living our faith. We knew who Jesus was, but we didn't know who Jesus was. And so my dad called me up. I generally was working Sundays at the time, and my dad called me up this Sunday that I had off. He says, you know what, you should really go to church today. I don't care where you go, but you should just go to church. And so we had seen the river a couple of times, and we're like, okay. And we stopped, and we went to church. And Miss Tony here, she was one of the first people we met, and she did what she does best. She invaded my personal space, and I was not exactly a huggy person at the time, but that didn't matter. But a weird thing, instead of me being like, she hugged, and I just went, oh, because that's just how Tony is. So, something to know, before we started going to the river, I was having dreams that were the same theme dream at least 3 times a week and probably for 2 years. Every dream was some type of apocalyptic dream. The world was ending, and my children, I would just turn and look at them, and they would have nothing but fear in their eyes. And it just ripped my heart out to see that fear. And the fact of the matter is, again, this is happening every other night. And I just couldn't understand it. Why am I having these dreams? Is God trying to tell me something? Yeah, he was trying to tell me something. But not what I thought. It really had nothing to do with my kids. It had to do with me. I needed to get past my fear. And I needed to lay the biggest gifts in my life, my family, I needed to lay them in his hands and realize that it's going to be okay and that I don't need to be afraid for them. Well, guess what? About 6 months after attending the river, and these dreams stopped. Geez, another coincidence. So we jumped in pretty quick. The following year after we started going, we went on a family mission trip to New Orleans. And so me and the girls, we were doing, well, the entire team was doing a Bible study, and they had a house in the middle of the ghetto. And it was me and Katie and Rachel's job to walk around the neighborhood and try and recruit kids for this Bible study. And everything was going fine, and then all of a sudden, this kid who's probably either late teens or early 20s, he walks up because I'm talking to his cousin. And his cousin is a little girl, and I'm telling her about it. Well, of course, he sees some random guy talking to his cousin. He's going to come up and find out. So as he's finding out what's going on, he just moves the right way, and I can see a pistol sitting right here. I'm like, oh, this is fabulous. And in my head, I'm just going, all right, God, you're up. Because I know you called us here, and I know there's no way that this is how this ends. Well, turned out to be a nice kid. Did not come to the Bible study, but he was thrilled that his cousin wanted to go, so she did come. Next is a situation I want to tell everybody. I did talk to this person and get permission to share this next one. This was approximately maybe a year after I started going to the river. And I don't know why, but for some reason, God directed me to Brock a lot. And I remember one time he left in the middle of service to go outside and have a cigarette, and I went up and followed him outside to make sure he was okay, and he just looked at me and was like, why are you here? What's going on? Why are you here? Because I'm not a friendly person. I'm not a people person. I'm like, I know, but I'm not going anywhere. And he was going through a very rough time at that point. And he had sent me a message one night, and the message seemed very much to me like he was contemplating taking his life. So I got on the phone with our pastor at the time, Pastor Dale. I said, I don't know what to do. I said, I really think that he might be getting ready to kill himself. And Pastor Dale says, you need to go over there. You need to pray with him. And I was, for quite a long time, I was very upset about that. Because I was just like, no, like, I'm not trained for this. Like, really? No, this is not something, like, you should be going over there. Because I'm not, I'm just a little peon. I just got my toe in the water. And then after a few years, I realized that, he was right. Because it wasn't about me. It wasn't about what I could do. It was about what he could do. And you want to know what he did? Let me tell you what he did. Part of the reason Brock was feeling so bad at the time was his dog, Bear, that he loved dearly. He was not doing well at all. And in fact, when I went over and I saw the dog, I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I just thought, man, I don't know if this dog's going to make it through the night. But I went over. I talked with Brock. I prayed with Brock. And when it was all said and done, I went home. I didn't know what else to do. Well, guess what? We see Brock still here. And Bear, all of a sudden, next day, guess what? He's totally fine. It was truly miraculous. I can't explain it. I don't think there's any scientific way to explain it. One night he's literally on death's door, and the next day he's back to normal. And from my understanding from talking to Brock, he lived quite a few years after that. So it wasn't even just like a short-term thing. It was absolutely amazing. But that's a situation where I truly learned. But it took a few years. Yeah, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about what I was qualified. It was about what he was qualified for. All right. Oh, let's see. Oh, boy. All right. 2012, this is the year after we started the river, and Cheryl's brother, Larry, he's our favorite, okay? He's the type of family you truly want. He's the type of family that you get along with. When you go do things with them, like, it's just a very relaxing, fun time. He's the brother that I should have had. I'm glad he wasn't my brother, because then it would have been awkward to marry his sister. But the fact of the matter is, he's very much like my brother. And we get a phone call that he's in the hospital because his appendix ruptured. And they had to go in and do surgery, and a week maybe goes by, and all of a sudden he's at home. And, oh, well, guess what? Now he's back in the hospital. They go in a second time. They're having trouble getting all the infection that came out of the appendix. Once it burst, it just went everywhere in his body. So they're having trouble getting it. He ended up being in the hospital for 2 full months. Now think about that. 2 full months in today's world, that's pretty crazy. When they do same-day surgeries now, and there was one day, I think this was the 3rd time he was going back in, he was not doing well at all. And they were saying the words that they weren't sure if he was going to make it. And I remember stopping by at the river. I don't know if I was doing the finances at that point, but I was stopping by for something. And I believe the 2 people I remember were there I remember Dale was there, and I remember Erica was there. And Erica just says, "What's the matter?" I was like, "What do you mean, what's the matter?" She's like, "I can see it on your face. What's going on?" And I completely lost everything and just sobbed. And it was at that point I realized that, this wasn't just a church that I was coming to. This was becoming my family. Sorry for all the drinks, but I don't know if you guys know this, but when you talk a lot. So, I'm going to go a different route with this story than I have in the past. And I want to tell you something that he told me after this was all said and done and everything was good. Do you guys ever have a time where you feel like God might be telling you to go pray for somebody? And does anybody ever struggle with that and kind of fight it and go, should I? I don't know. He told me, he says, at one point, they took me outside to get some air, and this lady came up and just said, "Would you mind if I prayed for you?" He says, it was the most impactful thing of that 2 months. It gave me hope. It gave me life. He's like, it made me look at something bigger. And I try to remember that story every time I have a situation where I feel like God's telling me to go pray for somebody and I'm fighting it. And I try to remember that and go, oh yeah, remember that? Remember what he said? How important it was, that one little 30-second prayer, how impactful it can be? Yeah, go ahead and ignore it now. All right, 2015, I did a mission trip to Wahiawa. Um, Beautiful place. Um, Absolutely devastated with homeless people. It is the Hawaii, I don't know if people know this, but I didn't. Hawaii's got the largest per capita homeless population. There are literal towns of homeless people. We were out distributing food, and I met a woman named Erica. Coincidence, I swear. And she was there, and on the sidewalk, she had like 4 tents maybe set up, and she had 2 little children, 2 little girls running around playing, and she was just kept apologizing. I'm so sorry that my place is such a mess. I'm so sorry. And here's these little girls just running around playing like, life is completely normal. And it broke me hard. Because I'm like, these children, they have no idea that this is not normal. Like, this is their life, and they have no idea that this isn't the way it should be. And then Erica, being so humble to sit there and apologize for her place being a mess. Really? And it just dawned on me, that could be us. That could be any of us. A few wrong decisions or just a few bad things, that could be us. But something that I found during that moment is something that I've known for a long time, and I've witnessed things, but man, it just drove it home here, is it's kind of sad, but the people that have the least tend to be the most grateful. It's insane. We have so much. If you woke up in this country, first of all, right now, you have it so good. I believe it is, if you woke up in this country, you are 98% richer than anybody in the rest of the world. That's insane. And it's easy to lose track of that. But man, I think it's important to keep that on the front every single day. Oh man, okay. We got this, guys. All right. 2020. COVID, right? Yeah, no. COVID's a wimp. COVID, I don't care about COVID. That was nothing. So, my oldest daughter, Rachel, came home to us in middle school, and she told us about this friend she met on the bus. And part of the story was, well, this friend was a high schooler. And I was like, well, I'm suspicious now because I don't know about you guys. When I was in middle school, there wasn't no high schooler making friends with me. Like, no. So there's got to be something going on. Well, fast forward, come to find out, no, there was nothing going on. This was just a fabulous young girl. And she was kind, and she was thoughtful, and she wanted to be Rachel's friend. And so that's what happened. And it just so happened that, by the way, this is Erica's daughter. Did I tell you her name was Allie? If I didn't, her name was Allie. So she's at our house all the time. She becomes another one of our childs. That's right, childs. That's for you, Rachel, the English major. All right. Well, in December of 2020, well, actually, I guess it started maybe in October of 2020. Allie got sick. She started having lots of strokes. Come find out, she had a rare brain disease called moya moya, caused the blood vessels in her brain to shrink and therefore start causing strokes. There was a surgery that they said they could do, and I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was something to the tune of, it was 80 or 85% effective, it was supposed to be. And yet, they went in for 2 different surgeries. And we were actually on our way back from Larry's house when we got the text message from Erica letting us know that Allie had passed. Let me tell you, it's a crazy situation when you just left an environment where you're very happy, you're full of love, and then all of a sudden you get news like that and just everything switches. I pulled off to the side of the road because we're literally on the highway. Pulled off to the side of the road, parked across in an empty lot across from some houses. I went and they were sobbing. Everybody was sobbing. A lady came over, gave us a box of Kleenex that just happened to see us there. This was a tough one. And it was tough because we're supposed to pray. We're supposed to know that God will give us what we ask for. But let me tell you, there's times that doesn't happen. And so there's times when this happens and it challenges your faith. Right, Rachel? Where you struggle to see, God, we did everything right. We prayed individually. We prayed as a church. We went to their house. We prayed. But the problem is, our pain causes us to overlook one key fact. He's God. We're not. There's nothing he doesn't know. There's nothing he doesn't understand. That certainly isn't us. One of my favorite verses in the Bible. So simple. Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. And when moments like this happen, I feel like that's where you need to rest. You have to rest in the fact that he is God, we are not. He knows what we do not. He understands what we do not, what we cannot possibly fathom. Yet, what does the Bible tell us? He will make all things good. I don't know if you guys know, there's a little boy that's usually with us. He's not that big no more. He's like this big now. It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. So, Junior came into our life. We started by babysitting him 1 or 2 days a week. And then we ended up, Erica came to us one day and said, I honestly think that God wants me to ask this to you, and I don't know if this might be the most inappropriate thing to ask. But do you guys want to take Junior? And she's like, you can go home and pray, and me and Cheryl were both like, yep, we're good. No, we don't need to pray about this because we've been getting hit with it for the last, 2-3 months. No, we know. And so then came the next 3 years, which was a very frustrating time because Dad is still in the picture. Dad doesn't have the capability of being a full-time dad. And one of the things that scared us is we knew that at any moment, he could actually show up at the door, take his son, and leave, go halfway across the country. There's nothing we could do about it legally because he had all the rights. So finally, after about 3 years, we have a sit down and we explain to him, we have to change this for so many reasons. And there's other legalities involved too, getting him on our insurance and stuff like that. Insurance companies won't do that just if we are taking care of them. It has to be official. So we finally get him to agree. Yes, I will sign the papers. You guys can have guardianship. Awesome. So happy. Well, then another attack, and an individual, other grandma, decided to fight our guardianship. Faith is giving us inside knowledge in the beginning of this, and she tells us that, yeah, just so you know, she got like 90 grand put in one account just to fight you guys in court. And her goal is actually to bankrupt you guys. Just keep fighting until you're out of money and you can't go no more. And so we had our first attorney. There was a conflict of interest that nobody understood how it was a conflict of interest, but she had to remove herself from the case, which God knows what he's doing. Our second attorney, man, was she a go-getter. Our first attorney, when she told us about the second one, she says, yeah, I'm just going to tell you, she's very blunt, and she's also very feisty. But that's also, you need that right now. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We thought everything was fairly good. And then all of a sudden we had court on Friday, and Thursday during the day I got a call from our attorney, and she's like, yeah, we're going to have to give on some of this stuff. We're not going to be able to do all the things that we want. And I said, well, I don't understand it. Like, what changed? I said, because this, you had mentioned this was a slam dunk before. She said, well, unfortunately, what changed is the power of attorney. You can't select who you get as a power of attorney, but you happen to get the guy that just wants everybody to be happy and sing Kumbaya. And I can tell you right now, though, that if he has to testify in court, I know by things he said that he is probably going to be more on her side than yours. Fabulous. Day before. So I sent out prayer request. And I don't know what's going to happen. We spent that night going back and forth, email after email after email with the attorney. However, next day comes, and guess what? We signed the papers. Everything was done. It was all legal now. And here's the thing with Junior. Junior was always supposed to be part of our family. Okay? That I'm telling you how I feel, by the way. So we had the girls, but we also, in between the girls being born, we had a miscarriage. Then after Katie was born, had a second miscarriage. And that one, after that, they told us that she would probably never be able to carry full term again. Now, she wanted to have her tubes tied, and I was fully in support of it, but I also wanted her to take a minute, so I said, please just wait 6 months, make sure it's still what you want. And it was, and so that's what we did. But, I'd be lying to you if I sat here and said that, there wasn't a part of me that had wanted a little boy in my life. And, well, guess what? There's a little boy in my life. And, that's, people can look at this stuff and say coincidence. And I just say, bull. No, I'm sorry. This is orchestrated. This is the way it's supposed to be. All right. Oh, wowie. I actually did skip a little bit, but that's okay. I'll give you 2 more God examples, and then I'll put you guys out of your misery. So, um, in the midst of Allie being sick, we were going to Allie's place and we were taking care of her two cats. Now, this is a very ironic thing because we're an animal person, she's an animal person. She had actually tried to get us to take these cats. However, we already had 3 cats, and we're like, no, thank you, we're good. So she ended up taking them. Well, then once she was sick and in the hospital, we ended up going and taking care of them every day. So when she passed, it was kind of like a no-brainer of, all right, well, I guess she gets her way, and we're taking the cats. And so because of who those cats are, the 2 of them and Rachel just developed a very strong bond. Hard to understand why, right? There's a part of Allie in those animals, and you won't convince Rachel otherwise. And so they're very special to her. Well, I get a call one day from Cheryl. I'm at work, and she just says, you need to come home. And I said, what's going on? She said, there's something wrong with paw print. And I'm like, is it bad enough that I really need to come home? And she's like, I think so. I was like, okay. So go home, and he's hiding under the bed. And it is the weirdest thing. He's just got drool all over himself, all over his chest, all over his mouth, everywhere, just huge piles of drool. And I was like, oh, that is not good. And Rachel is coming unglued because, again, they are a part of Allie. They're a part of who Allie was. And so I'm pretty sure I sent out prayer requests to some of my peoples. And because when I was in high school, I actually worked for a vet for about 3 years. And I'll tell you what, this cat did not look good. I obviously wasn't going to tell Rachel this at the time, but I did not think the cat was going to make it. And yet, take it to the vet, I think 2 days later. That was the first they could get him in. And vet's like, I don't know. Because the cat's very, very healthy. I was like, well, what's going on then? He's like, my best guess is that he got into something, and it's not sitting well with his stomach, and it's got to work its way out. So, may seem like a small detail, but I'll tell you what, not a small detail to that little girl back there. All right, last story. 2023, this isn't very much fitting to the rest of the stories. The rest have been mainly family focused, but it was a very big thing for me. There's an individual in my life who at one time there had been we'll call it a disagreement between me and him, and he could not stand the sight of me. Every time I was around him, I did not know. I honestly thought we were going to end up getting physical every single time. He hated me. He threatened me so many times it wasn't funny. So you've got an individual here that literally wanted me dead. However, we overcame it and things became okay, and we still see each other on a fairly regular basis. And here's the Jesus part. I notice that all of a sudden he is not doing okay. Like, you can just look at him and you know something's wrong. And I stop him one day and I look at him. I say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, I know you're going through something right now. And I just want you to know that I'm praying for you and I'm thinking about you. And he gave me a look, and to be honest, I was a little afraid for the look because I thought I'd reopened a can of worms or something because it was just a serious look. But I was in my truck, by the way, and he was standing outside the window. He reached in, and he put his arms around me, and he began to sob into my shoulder. Now, seriously, like, how can you not see Jesus in that? This person wanted me dead, and now he's sobbing into my shoulder. It's Jesus. All right. Wahiwa. When we took the trip to Wahiwa, there was a moment where we were driving somewhere and we had they misplaced our car that we had rented, and therefore they ended up giving us a convertible, which was not too shabby. And so, of course, we had the top down everywhere we go because it's just beautiful over there. So there's one day that we had to drive for about an hour, and I was in the back seat, and I just prayed the whole time. I had the biggest conversation with God. I asked him so many things. He yelled at me for so many things. Do I really have to drag you? Is this what I have to do to get you to listen to me and understand? That's what I'll do. I'll take you away from everything just to get you to understand. Because remember how I struggled with who I was? Well, guess what? He talked to me about that. And he gave me an answer of who I was. You're my child. You're the person that I died on the cross for. The moments that I am closest to God are the moments that I don't worry about who I am and I feel the most comfortable of who I am. When I go away from God, guess what? I start to struggle. Does that make sense to anybody? And it's very irritating because then you just sit there and go, so essentially I'm responsible for my own demise. It's not fun when you realize that. Guys, I'm just going to leave you with, if I were to sit here and just tell you about all the moments in my life that I have seen God and I've seen Christ move, I'd be here for 10 times longer. But I'm going to leave you with this because I feel it's very fitting and speaks to my song that I love that you guys embrace so much and it made me so happy. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Thank you, guys. Thanks, bud. Except for myself, which is weird.
Well, what's so beautiful about all of our real people, real Jesus stories is something that I think we could all see very clearly as Jonathan was speaking, is that, you know, when you go back through your life and you consider everything that God has done, it's kind of like rereading a journal at warp speed. And you see how he's answered and he's moved and he's prevented and he's stood in the gap and he's saved and rescued and restored. And when we're going through those things, it doesn't so much feel like that. And all I could keep thinking when Jonathan was talking is just the phrase that he doesn't give you a test without a testimony. And I don't know, maybe that kind of sounds corny, but it is so true. And when we put our trials in his hands, he does really great things with them. And I think because he is such a gentleman, he does not always let us see the outcome of that, the fruit of that, because in our humanness, we would tend to get just a really big head and think we're really awesome. And he's the one that's awesome. But he longs to work through us. And I could stand up here and tell you at least 3 really powerful stories where Jonathan was involved, but maybe I should ask him first. But I want to tell you, everything that he said is just such an example of the character that he exemplifies in his everyday life, and it is very inspiring. Would you pray with me? Oh, Lord Jesus, we are so grateful for this summer in hearing how you have worked repeatedly in the lives of those who have shared, because what happens is we cannot help but reflect on ways that you have worked in our lives, maybe things we have forgotten, things we've dismissed, things that we just maybe don't want to remember, but you bring that back to our mind. The Holy Spirit is so great in doing that. And I pray that as we kind of, we have one more week of this, but that we do not stop testifying of the things that you have done. It was prayed earlier this morning, Lord, that we would just truly be people. Kathy prayed it in our Bible study this morning, that we would be people of the River Church who take the love of Jesus into the real world, that they would be drawn to you. And Lord, we are just so grateful also that you do not stop pursuing us. If it's graffiti on bridges that we pass under, so be it. If it is just a season of waiting, as hard as this is to say, so be it. If it is a trial that you are longing to reveal more of yourself through, double hard to say, so be it. Because you want nothing more than to reveal the truth of who you are. So much so that you went to the cross, died our death, so that we could live your life. That's quite the trade-off. And so, Lord Jesus, we thank you for that. We thank you for your body. We thank you for your blood. We thank you for what that means, that when God looks at us, he sees you. There are no words for that. So just take a moment. As believers in Christ, we come before these elements because we remember what Jesus did for us. And then we go out and we celebrate what Jesus did for us by how we live our lives. And if you don't know the Lord as your Savior, just don't let today pass. Speak with Tony, speak with myself. We would be so honored to pray with you and welcome you into the kingdom of God. And so just take a moment, reflect, lay down what needs to be laid down, and when you are ready, Ed and Tony will administer the elements.